sharp-witted man from our world is summoned to a crumbling realm as a fabled herald of doom. Instead of accepting his grim fate, he uses his charisma and modern perspective to defy the powers that be and rally a hopeless society against existential annihilation. Summoned from a mundane death to a cold, stone cage, Kai Renner wakes beneath the mocking gaze of screaming painted angels and glowing, ancient runes. Archmagus Farron, flanked by nervous cloaked acolytes, trembles as he invokes the prophecy of the herald, desperate to bind a soul from beyond the veil. Kai recognizes the tropes of 1,000 paperbacks, and instead of the expected grim despair, he sits up with a grin and an itch for trouble. Ignoring the gravity of his situation, he critiques the interior design while the baffled cultists scramble to make sense of their unscripted hero. Barty, a timid scribe trembling under the weight of his own grimoire, desperately tries to steer the herald toward someone violent, blood-drenched demands. Kai dismisses the cycle of doomed predecessors and marks the jittery scribe as his first ally, promising to break their self-defeating procurement problem. Suddenly, the heavy door crashes open, and Knight Commander Seraphine Ardent steps into the room, her silver armor gleaming like someone blade. With cold iron in her eyes, the commander confirms her lethal history, intent on adding a 10th failed herald to her morbid season of slaughter. Kai drops the bravado for a moment, disarming the warrior by speaking to the hidden, grieving hope she has kept buried beneath her polished steel. To the shock of the onlookers, the blade hesitates in its sheath. The commander grants a temporary reprieve, fueled by a dangerous, flickered curiosity. As the distant, tolling bell signals that the world has noticed their presence, Kai refuses to play the victim, ready to stir the pot of this broken reality. The tunic was stiff, ugly, and featured a bizarre screaming angel, but Kai donned it someone a man needed style to face the end of the world. Barty hurried the newcomer through the damp, drafty halls, muttering about deep debts, and a prophecy the order could barely afford to keep alive anymore. The scribe clutched his lantern, terrified by the news that a gate from the long dark had someone last time that happened. A village vanished entirely. With the lives of villagers hanging in the balance, Kai didn't bother waiting for a plan. He shifted into action, driven by a stubborn, reckless sense of duty. Stepping out onto the frosted, blackened path, the pair quickly learned that the cold wasn't just someone, was a premonition of something truly hungry. Blocking the path was a nightmare given form, a dread maw, a massive beast of shadow and frost, contemplating its next terrible meal in the dead of night. Kai ignored every warning siren in his brain, stepping forward with his hands raised, not in surrender, but as if greeting an old acquaintance. Sitting cross-legged on the bridge, Kai offered the monster a conversation instead of a fight, treating the end of the world like a late-night chat. The beast hesitated, caught off guard by a human who dared to act bored in its presence. For the first time, common sense lost to sheer, unadulterated hubris. To the complete shock of his companion, the monster turned away, pacing back into the ravine and dissolving into the dark, its hunger replaced by weird, quiet respect. Kai walked toward the village lights with a whistle, leaving a stunned reality in his wake. He knew this was just the first move in a much longer game. Kai Renner arrives in Thornwick, only to find that his modest feat at the bridge has already been inflated into a legend of burning heroism. Adoration from the villagers proves overwhelming, with children wielding sticks as holy swords and locals begging for blessings. Barty whispers a warning about the villagers' dangerous devotion, but Kai just tears off a piece of free bread, cynical yet unfazed. The atmosphere shifts as an imposing figure arrives in silver-chased armor, her presence looming over the square like a storm front. Seraphine Ardent treats his presence as a volatile threat, warning that someone elite are already baying for a verdict on his nature. They set out on the long trek, and instead of brooding in the wagon, Kai rides alongside the knight, relentlessly chipping away at her icy exterior. She finally drops her guard just enough to offer a dry, unexpected joke, a tiny crack in the armor she has worn for decades. Kai recognizes that her coldness is merely a scar, the result of watching too many false prophets lead innocent people to their deaths. When highwaymen emerge from the tree line, Kai steps directly into the line of fire, weaponless and smiling, playing the deadliest gamble of his life. Using the leverage of her reputation, he talks the brigands down, trading a single loaf of bread and a story for the lives of his companions. Seraphine watches the retreating men with a newfound, silent respect, beginning to realize this man might be the first truth she has seen in years. Kai Renner watches the spires of the capital rise like jagged teeth, feeling the weight of an entire kingdom that seemed to love its own misery. Seraphine Ardent warned their guest that he was walking into a nest of vipers, where clever words were the very tools used to ensure a herald's demise. Within the heart of the capital, The Grand Convocation sat in a gallery of stone, their eyes fixed on a mural of an ending world. High Oracle Vespera sat beside a silent, dreaming king, her blind eyes fixed on the man who had been summoned to die for their sins. The oracle spoke of an inescapable doom, claiming the stars had forged a fate where the herald must fall, alone and abandoned. Kai let out a bright, genuine laugh, a sound so alien to their sorrow-drenched culture that even the chilling High Oracle went deathly still. He dared to challenge the very foundations of their faith, suggesting that a prophecy was just a story told by fearful people to explain the dark. With the aid of a reluctant but brilliant Bardi, the herald proposed a radical, cooperative survival that replaced solitary sacrifice with collective strength. When the hall finally erupted in thunderous applause, Vespera felt the cold grip of her own absolute certainty slip for the first time in decades. In the quiet shadows of a corridor, the armor-clad knight questioned if this hope was merely another trap that would lead them to ruin. Unseen by them, a dark courier slunk into the night, carrying the news of a laughing savior to a master waiting in the encroaching silence. A mysterious black-waxed invitation arrives at the monastery, bearing the terrifying signature of V. Halgrim, the dread sovereign who once razed the sunward provinces to ash. Sira is adamant that the invitation is a death trap, but Kai sees it differently. A lonely, bored immortal is looking for someone worth talking to. Under the gray dawn, the trio travels toward the Black Mountain, their internal doubts and the weight of their impossible mission hanging heavy in the freezing air. Kai enters the umbral someone jagged, impossible structure of dark someone attune, stepping into the mouth of the beast without a shred of protection. V. Halgrim towers above, a 7-foot specter of patrician cruelty and cold iron, his gaze burning with the light of the very gates he serves. Ignoring the threats of eternal imprisonment, Kai spots the truth beneath the villain's armor. The dread sovereign is not just evil, he is profoundly exhausted. Kai dismantles the villain's ego with brutal honesty, highlighting that 3 centuries of solitude have turned the keep into a tomb, not a seat of power. Outside in the shadows, Seraphine hesitates, crossbow raised. This bizarre, conversational encounter bears no resemblance to the battle she had prepared for. Someone resolve falters as Kai reminds him that he is merely a tool for the hollow someone weapon used, but never truly valued or appreciated. With the sovereign finally admitting the hollow someone impending return, Kai makes his desperate gamble, reaching out a hand in an act of genuine defiance. In the ultimate show of shattered prophecy, the dread sovereign reaches out and takes someone's hand, forever altering the fate of the crumbling realm. Kai stands confidently in the war hall, his mischievous grin unfazed as the convocation nobles tremble at the sight of the legendary menace sitting among them. V. Halgrim speaks with a chilling, velvet grace, acknowledging the weight of his past atrocities to the grieving young lord across the table. The atmosphere shifts as an aura of golden light intensifies, announcing the arrival of the legendary hero who was destined to save them all. Aldrich levels his sword at the Outworlder, his eyes burning with the bitter jealousy of one who has been displaced from his own heroic narrative. Instead of reaching for a weapon, the herald offers nothing but a calm, genuine compliment that throws the challenger completely off balance. The herald cuts through the tension by dismantling the prophecy itself, revealing the cruel reality of the lonely hero archetype to a stunned audience. For the first time in his life, the shining symbol of justice falters, caught between a lifetime of rigid duty and the possibility of a different choice. A hand is someone as an enemy, but as someone a future where no one has to stand against the coming darkness in silence. The golden sword is finally sheathed, and as the hero clasps the herald's forearm, the cycle of the doomed prophecy is broken forever. Vespera shatters the solidarity with a chilling warning, pointing toward the sky where the reality of their final enemy begins to manifest. Gathering his unlikely team, the herald faces the encroaching void, armed with his wit, his bond, and a plan that might just be crazy enough to work. The sable star looms over the great plaza like a tear in reality, as the hollow kings someone void of total absence that strips the world of color. Kai Renner steps forward, flanked by his allies, facing the entity that has unmade 1,000 worlds simply by existing. The hollow king speaks, its voice a hollow memory in their minds, mocking the herald for believing his charisma could reach something that is not even there. Kai realizes the truth behind the prophecy's dread. The monster does not possess a wound to exploit, because it is the wound itself. He turns his back on the annihilation, shifting his focus away from the entity to the people who had followed him into the dark. Kai challenges his followers to remember their own agency, turning their funeral march into a testament of stubborn survival. The color begins to bleed back into the world, fueled not by magic, but by the unified, thundering refusal of a city that decided not to die. The Hollow King recoils as the sheer weight of their living someone full room, where it expected only someone its cosmic hold. As the sable star seals, a last, faint whisper echoes in someone first genuine feeling the nothingness has ever known. Safe on a high balcony overlooking a city that is finally painting its own future, Kai stands alongside Seraphine. With the prophecy broken and no script left to follow, the herald finally embraces the freedom of writing his own death. That's where Too Smooth to Die leaves us for now.